This weekend, the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup, is by the seaside. We're at Zandvoort in the Dutch dunes, the home of the Dutch Grand Prix and a circuit steeped in motor racing history. It's a real challenge for the drivers. There are some tight corners, some really fast sections as well, but it's not that easy to overtake around here, and hence qualifying is very important indeed. Raffaele Marciello is the man who comes to Zandvoort, leading Fanatec GT overall and within the Sprint Cup, and he wants more race-winning points this weekend.
We are doing well this year in sprint, in endurance, in overall. So I mean, it's still a long season to go. I expect here to be strong. Last year we were quite strong. Audi, the new kit, is probably a bit stronger than us, but it's okay. We've been like mega strong in Magny-Cours, in Brenzage, so at one point they will beat us. But I mean, it's always important to stay close to them and to score points.
Dries van Thor has had one win to Raffaele Marciello's two within Sprint Cup, and he's eager to turn the tables this weekend because Dries van Thor can see that Mercedes pulling away in the championship.
It has been a difficult start for us. Of course, me making a mistake last time in Magny-Cours, which cost us a lot of points, but we're still in there. I mean, it's still a long way to go, but it's time that we have to start showing what we have. I mean, it's been tough. The Mercedes have been very fast everywhere we've been so far, but it will be a hard battle. It will be a nice battle. I think the last few years have shown that it's always quite even here, so hopefully we can just have the upper hand this weekend.
For Valentino Rossi, this is another big challenge. It's a circuit he doesn't know well at all, and you've got to qualify well here to have a good chance come the race. Pressure's on.
I like a lot this track. The layout is very interesting. Here you have the sand, the dunes, the sea, you know. The track is good, but it's very difficult. Compared to the test, we have a lot less grip, and like this, the car is more difficult to manage. I did some mistakes, but we continue to work, and we will see. And I think that the track will improve day by day, so I think that we have to find the right balance.
Lots of home attention surrounds this Attempto Audi because Dutch driver Peter Schothorst is one of the drivers at the helm of the car, and he's eager to do well on a circuit he really likes.
It feels like coming home. I grew up here my entire racing youth, so to say. I live quite close, so it's a home track, a proper home track, yeah. I would say turn one at the start is definitely something going to be hectic. Around the outside in turn 2 and turn 3 is going to be some overtaking, and for the rest, maybe the weather will play a big role.
Pierre-Alexandre Jean is having a stellar season. Not only did he and Ulysse de Pauw win outright at Brands Hatch at the start of the season, but they're also the crew to beat in the Silver Cup.
Very happy about the start of the season. We were not expected this amount of speed, so it was a great surprise for all of us. The last 2 years we did some good results here with CMA and the Bentley. So I'll try and work with Ulysse and the team to keep this momentum and keep going on this overall podium.
Life's been tough in the Silver Cup for Sky Tempesta Racing this year. Switching from Ferrari to Mercedes, there's been a lot to learn. And for driver Chris Froggatt, there's been a bit of frustration along the way.
We all have relatively little experience with this car, and we've been faced with a few technical issues along the way, which sort of hasn't helped with our integration as drivers into the car. And obviously a new team as well means generally with new engineers and mechanics that we've all had to get to know each other a bit better and learn each other. So yeah, slowly we're getting there, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
The Monegasque GSM Nova Marine team is new to the championship this year, and Danny Cruz, another Dutch driver, is new to the team this weekend, really to try and help the crew develop.
The team is new, so I'm here for Lamborghini to help the team. At the moment, yeah, we're not really quick, so we need to grow a lot, and throughout the championship I hope to get a good result. I live really close to the track. I do a lot of coaching on this track, and yeah, of course, to be on the home race, yeah, I hope for a really good result.
In Pro-Am, the JP Motorsport McLaren of Patrick Krupinski, the man behind the team and former Grand Prix racer, Christian Klein has been the car to beat, although Christian not really fancying his chances this weekend.
It's a beautiful track. I mean, Zandvoort embedded into the sand dunes. It's just a great place to come here. You can't control really the sand, so it's always blowing on the track, so it feels just like a very low grip, and that's probably a point where we struggle with the McLarens a bit more this weekend. So it might be a bit of a struggle, so we really have to put our elbows out to get another win here.
Those are the thoughts from a number of the drivers on the grid. Next, let's just look at some of the key points of the Sprint Cup. There are 5 events with 2 races at each. The races last for 1 hour and each car has 2 drivers. So there's a mandatory pit stop in a window between 25 and 35 minutes of the race in which every team must change drivers and change all 4 tyres. Those pit stops can be done as fast as possible in the Pro and Silver classes, putting the emphasis on the pit crew as races can be won or lost in the pits. All the cars run to international GT3 regulations, but then divided by driver grading. The Pro class is for the real stars. Many are manufacturer-paid drivers, and the winners are most likely to come from here. The Silver Cup is for the young guns, up-and-coming but less experienced or successful, while Pro-Am is just that, an amateur racer partnered by a pro as the gun for hire. There are 25 cars on the grid from 6 different brands. Audi takes on Ferrari and Lamborghini, McLaren, Mercedes and Porsche all represented. And the points scored in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS, go towards the global Fanatec GT World Challenge competition. And that is currently being led by Mercedes. Audi runs second, and third is Ferrari. So let the Battle of the Dunes commence. The grid is formed. David Addison and John Watson trackside. John, we were saying in qualifying this morning how important a session that was going to be. So too the run into and out of the first corner.
Yes, indeed. It's the out of the Tarzan Hairpin. We see temperatures are much warmer than they were this morning. Well, a little bit warmer, not much warmer, but they're up. And that will have, again, a bearing. But it's who gets out of Tarzan first, rather than who gets into Tarzan. So it's the out rather than the in will dictate to some degree who's going to win this race. Of course, those mandatory pit stops will come into play, but it is very much a circuit of follow my leader, other than that, for the quick and the brave.
And of course, you can do an undercut on the pit stops, the window between 25 and 35 minutes, and one driver eager to gain places is Valentino Rossi. He's on the grid with Gemma Scott.
Valet, just to interrupt you briefly while you're getting yourself ready, you've suffered a 3-place grid penalty for impeding during qualifying. What's the objective from here?
Yeah, also it was difficult this morning because we hope to be stronger. So we have to start at the back of the grid, but we will see. We will see on the race because everything can change, and we hope to have a good pace.
Thank you very much. Have a great race.
Thank you.
He's still smiling, great character, and of course brings thousands of people to the circuit. Every nation we go to, yet more fans discover GT racing on the back of Valentino Rossi's involvement in the championship, which is great to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough learning ladder. It's a vertical learning ladder for Valentino Rossi. He's in amongst the finest GT3 drivers in the world. So he's literally jumped into the deep end and learning on the hoof. And unfortunately got that 3-place grid penalty drop because he impeded another car. It's a tough world, you know, there's no room for anything other than perfection.
Well, that is Charles Weerts, the man that will start on pole position, second in the championship, having had 1 win at Magny-Cours. Their co-driver, teammate Dries Van Thor, of course, comes here as now Nürburgring 24 Hours winner once more, and it is Audi's locking out the front of the grid because slightly unnoticed in a way in qualifying, he just quietly got on with the job. Simon Gachet, who is developing into a very, very nice, competent, competitive, error-free GT3 driver. He went second fastest for the Trésor by Car Collection team. So Audi's on the front of the grid with Ferrari and Audi on the second row. We'll come to the Ferrari in a moment, the Brands Hatch winning car, because first let's catch up with Charles Weerts and Dries Van Thor, the pole sitters going into race 1.
You boys have both got your eyes to the sky, spotting planes there, but getting into the zone surely. A fantastic qualifying session this morning and exactly where you want to be. Come to you, Charles.
Yeah, for sure. Starting a race in the first place is always a good place to start, especially on a track where it's difficult to overtake. So now it's just going to be up to us to use that good position and try to take maximum advantage out of that.
And of course the pit stops are going to be crucial as well, Dries.
Exactly, but I think SRO has shown all the time that they are massively good at it, so I don't expect anything less. I mean, yeah, a great job by Charles to put us on this place, and hopefully we can score maximum points today.
and then get onto the golf course later. Thank you very much.
Exactly, yeah.
Priorities. Well, fingers crossed it's not going to be a below par effort to come the race for the two Audi drivers. Aurelien Panis there for Santalot Junior team, starting 6th on the grid. And again, he was good this morning, apart from one little error down at turn 11.
Yes, the track seemed to change for some reason in some of the corners, and all of a sudden you get a sideways movement, or you actually end up off the track. But just to go back to the pool-sitting car, they've got to make hay while the sun shines here in Zandvoort, because their principal challenger, the 89 Mercedes, in this case started by Timo Boguslawski, is starting all the way down in 15th position. That would be out of the points, and that's where they're finishing. So the number 32 Audi has got to capitalize and win this first of the two sprint rounds.
Luca Giotto you're looking at there in the car, and Mathieu Drudy will take over. Charles Witz and Dries van Thoref never actually won at Zandvoort together, so you kind of think, really, because they've done so well elsewhere, but a victory eludes them here. It could all change in the next hour and a bit. So the two car collection cars starting 2nd and 4th on the grid, one behind the other. The grid is now being cleared. At the 1 minute board, the engines will fire up. Everybody will make their way from the grid. Pole in the Silver Cup to Elise de Pauw and Pierre-Alexandre Jean's Ferrari, 3rd on the grid, the white Ferrari there, up against the white pit wall, and go a little bit further back. Pro-Am pole position, the Garage 59 McLaren, Miguel Ramos sharing with Dean McDonald. There is the Ferrari. Elise de Pauw went well here last year in the Bentley, and of course outright winners at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, that's a very strong contender, maybe outside of the regular Audi Mercedes group, but on the 2nd row of the grid. But watch at the start. Charles Weerts on the left of your screen, on the inside going into Tarzan. Simon Gachet on the outside going in. Now, it's often been possible at the start to take the long way around. In other words, avoid trying to dive down and make the apex. So go the long way around, but what you have to be careful of is that the exit of the corner, this car doesn't sweep up and then get into contact with Gachet's number 11. So an interesting moment for both the front row sitters. And if they make a mistake behind them, well, there's the 2nd of the car collection cars, but notably the Ferrari directly behind Charles Weerts. So they'll be looking to use any opportunity to gain an advantage.
What about these two banked corners that we have? Are they, well, I'll come to those in a moment, in fact, the bank corners. We'll just get an idea of the difference in lines, because first of all, let's have a quick walk down the grid. Pole position, Charles Weerts. At number 11 is started by Simon Gachet. The 2nd row, Elise de Pauw, and alongside him, Luca Giotto. Then it's Jules Gounon in the yellow-nosed Mercedes and Aurelien Panis. Igor Walilka's Mercedes comes next. The Gulf-liveried Audi of Thomas Neubauer starts 8th. Peter Scotthorst on home ground is 9th. And Casper Stevenson aboard number 87 Mercedes 10th. Then there's Alex Arca, and alongside him, Gilles Magnus, Dennis Lind, number 1, 1, 2, and Timo Boguslawski there, the championship leader, is next, ahead of Jean-Baptiste Simonard and the Manuel Maldonado McLaren. Next comes Giorgio Roda and Miguel Ramos. Chris Froggatt's white Mercedes has Stefano Costatini's Ferrari for company. Adrian Delina lines up alongside local hero Danny Cruz. Then there is Valentino Rossi and Patrick Krupinski in the Pro-Am McLaren, and it is Louis Machiels at the back of the grid, because co-driver Andrea Bertolini racked up, strangely for him, so many behavioural warning points. They got a 10-place grid drop. It was going to affect the car in this race no matter who was going to start it, so quite cleverly they only went out for one lap, saved some tyres, because they were going to start at the back anyway. Yes,
I mean, the 10 penalty drop meant that they couldn't go any further back on the grid than they are. But there was a rumour that actually, as a penalty, they might make that car, the 52 Ferrari, start in Zolder, which is across the border in Belgium, to make sure that the punishment was being fully metered out.
Andrea Bertolini on a mission then in his 2nd stint, one to save it. Right, let me go back to these back corners quickly, because the Hugenholtz box is one, and of course the last corner, the Arie Luijendijk corner, is another. Do they make much of a difference?
Admire the innovation. The Hugenholtz box, or corner as it's known, I mean, it's certainly visually exciting to... I don't think it adds a great deal to overtaking. That's the idea. Then the Arie Luijendijk box, that's the long sort of semi or bank corner that leads on to start-finish straight. I would have really liked to have seen the corner prior, that's Kumu, to make Kumu and one big sort of banked bowl. If you did that, then you might be able to see cars getting side by side on a bank corner, then coming off and then having a chance to see real, maybe overtaking coming down into the tires. And so they've done part of the job in terms of Arie Luijendijk, but they could improve, I believe, if they extended the banking back to turn 13.
Let's just remind you of the grid then. Charles Weert starts on pole position, Simon Gachet alongside. The second row is Ferrari and Audi, Ulysse de Pauw and Luca Giotto. Then it's Mercedes and Audi. Jules Gounon lines up alongside Aurelien Panis. Igor Welilko's ever-improving pace in the Mercedes puts him 7th alongside Thomas Neubauer, and going from 9th it's Peter Schotthorst with Casper Stevenson starting 10th. 11th on the grid, Alex Acker for Attempto Racing. And Gilles Magnus, who, along with Nicholas Bartz, had a Silver Cup win this year, starts 12th on the grid. Dennis Lynn could be a man to watch, 13th. He was impeded a bit by Valentino Rossi, hence that grid drop for number 46 Audi. Tibor Bogoslavski is alongside, ahead of Jean-Baptiste Simonard. And 16th on the grid is Manuel Maldonado, former single-seater racer. 17th, Giorgio Roda, who had an off this morning, and then heading Pro-Am on the grid, Miguel Ramos alongside. Chris Froggatt in the Silver Cup Sky Tempesta Mercedes looking to make progress. Stefano Costatini alongside him. Then it's Adrian Delina and Danny Cruz next on the grid. Valentino Rossi drops to 23rd then, with Patrick Krupinski 3rd on the grid in Pro-Am alongside him, and then Louis Machiel's 4th, and indeed last therefore in Pro-Am, rounds out the grid. 1 hour of racing, mandatory pit stop between 25 and 35 minutes. If you're in Pro-Am, there is a regulation pit stop time, line to line, of 62 seconds. But in Pro and in Silver, it's as quick as you like, and that is one way you can gain places around here.
Either you gain places or you can consolidate your place, but certainly it is a key part of how the final result will be decided. Again, going back to the front row of the grid, there will be great pressure on both front row grid sitters to make sure that they gain the advantage of that front row. But all the hard work that they put in and qualifying to gain that front row, they don't want to lose it. So a lot to be lost, and you've just got to consolidate. And as those that are behind the Ferrari and the second car collection Audi, it's opportunities for the pole sitter, the 32, to consolidate. I mentioned this a little earlier. The 89 Mercedes was way, way back in almost the tail of the field. So Dries van Thor must be thinking, happy days, we've got an open goal. Let's not miss it.
So the cars now get themselves into the Noah's Ark 2x2 formation down towards the Kumho Bocht that brings you to the Arie Luijendijk curve. Renamed for years when the track opened, it was the Bos Out curve, but then named after Arie Luijendijk. So the leading car will peel into the pit lane, and then it's up to the race cars with the pole position driver Charles Weert to control the pace on the run up towards the line. And we've seen in the past people getting slightly out of position and copping a penalty. They all have to stay one behind the other in those two lines. Slowly, slowly, that's the other banked curve there. That is the Luijendijk curve up onto the pit straight. Cars make a great sight, a full cry when they come through there. Up towards the line, Simon Gachet lags back a little bit here. That looks, therefore, as though it's a slightly greater advantage for Charles Weert, but they should get themselves back in formation. Now as the lights change, and Gachet accelerates away, but it's going to be Charles Weert that leads, and the Ferrari comes up the inside line to Ulysse de Pauw to go second. And Jules Gounon in the yellow and black Audi also tries to wriggle away through. Out wide goes Gachet. Not a great start by him. So Weert's leads, and Ulysse de Pauw up in a second. And here comes Gounon on the inside line. 3 wide behind them. Contact is avoided, but Gounon, a man on a mission.
Yeah, Gounon made the position, but did he lose it? No, he's not. He's managed it stick. So great opportunism by Jules Gounon. But look at the cars coming through the exit of Hugenholz now, side by side, up through the Robert Schlottemacher curves as they climb the hill and then into Schleeve, like this downhill right-hand corner. And you take a deep breath, and when you exit, you can exhale.
And one of the Attempto Audis with a bit of smoke coming off the right rear corner. I think it might have been 99, which is the Alex Acker car. There's the sister entry. Battles on. There is Acker up the inside to go ahead of number 12 of Luca Giotto. Now Giotto is going backwards from 4th on the grid. He's had a lousy first lap. Dennis Lynn tries to get up the inside, but it's Weert's leading. De Pauw 2nd. Gounon is 3rd. Gachet 4th. Not a great start by Gachet either.
No, Gachet lost out on the run down into turn 1. Oh, well, who's that? That's the McLaren.
But which one is it? Is it the Silver Cup? I think it is. That looks like Maldonado that's off the racetrack. So Manuel Maldonado is off. Number 159. Miguel Ramos survives behind in the 188 entry. There it is, back on the road. But Maldonado is in for a long hour now, trying to get that car back up the order.
Watch Jules Gounon. He's going to be right on the tail of the Ferrari as they come through the Kumho curve, then up into the Arie Luijendijk curve. Jules Gounon, if he's going to make progress, has got to start doing it now and find a way, if possible, to get up alongside Ulysse de Pauw in the Ferrari coming down into the braking. But unfortunately for Gounon, he hasn't got the straight line performance to get on terms with the Ferrari.
But he keeps Gachet at bay. 5th over the line, Panis. 6th was Schotthorst. 7th, Welilko. 8th, Alex Acker. 9th, Luca Giotto. 10th, Dennis Lynn. But Giotto, 4th on the grid. 9th at the end of the lap. It all unravelled for him. There's the sister car of Simon Gachet, which also, of course, has dropped places. You can see how wide they go, right up the banking and then try and fire off the corner.
Yeah, I mean, it's spectacular as a single car or a group of cars. The idea was to make overtaking a little bit easier. It hasn't really worked as it has been hoped.
Look at Dennis Lind on his toes here, all over the back of Luca Giotto like a cheap suit now as they come up towards Schijflach. Through that right-hander he goes. Dennis Lind was quick through the Slottermatter curve, but he's not quite able to stay close enough to make a move up at turn 7. And also, Dennis Lind being given a hard time by the Silver Cap Audi there. You can see behind the largely red car of Gilles Magnus. There is Dennis Lind, 10th on the road.
Yeah, Dennis Lind a little bit slow on turn 9. The Audi was almost into the back of the McLaren. But then again, look at coming into turn 10. So either Dennis Lind has not got his tyre temperature. This has been one of the issues with the 22 Pirelli tyre. If you don't get it up to operating temperature at the point when the flag or the lights go out, then you might struggle while others around you may have done a better job.
And maybe that's also part of the reason why those two car collection Audis have gone backwards, because perhaps it's all down to the tyres. Froggatt is ahead of Rossi here, so Chris Froggatt 22nd, Valentino Rossi 23rd, Louis Machiel's 24th, and Valet is really struggling to get through the traffic, but of course he's never raced here, whether it's been on 4 wheels nor 2.
Yeah, but I mean, it's such a competitive field, and also it's a tight circuit. There's not a lot of room around to, let's say, big wide open spaces, as we would say on some of the other circuits we visit. So he's been muscled back again from where he started back on the 12th row of the grid.
Dennis Lind up the curb, almost up the back of the Audi as well, as he tries to force a way through the order, but Luca Giotto is fending him off for now. Around the back of the paddock they come. This is turn 3. This is the Hugenholtz box, named after John Hugenholtz, the designer of the Zandvoort circuit. Over the brow, the Slottermacher box, named after Rob Slottermacher, great Dutch touring car and GT, and also a skid control instructor. So as the cars come through turn 7, Dennis Lind hustles on behind the Audi, and then the run towards turn 8, that short straight turn right, and then it's right again. But Lind, certain parts of the circuit closes, then he drops back a little bit and is caught by Gilles Magnus behind him.
So Charles Veillette leads, and he's got a 1.3 second advantage over Jules Gounon, who's found his way around Simon Gachet. So that was a task he needed to execute as quickly as possible. He's now done that. There's the 3rd, 4th place cars, or maybe 2nd and 3rd place cars, because whereas Gounon, we're seeing timing and scoring that Gounon is up into 3rd place, but he's not. Oh, he is indeed. In fact, it's just the way I'm looking at the screen.
Yeah, there he is in 3rd spot behind the Ferrari, but significantly, Timur Boguslavski, the championship leader, is only 16th overall. So a lot of work for him and Raffaele Marciello to do yet, as the leaders come. Virtually now the 3 of them gapping everybody else, a small gap at least. Over the line they come. Wirtz, DePauw, Gounon, small gap back to Gachet 4th, Aurélien Panis in 5th. Now, last time around in the sectors, the gap was coming down a little bit early in the lap between Wirtz and DePauw. By the end of it though, Charles Wirtz does the fastest lap of the race, and he's got 0.6 of a second in hand over the Ferrari. But in fairness to Gounon, he's staying with them, isn't he? 5th on the grid, he runs 3rd, so it's a good start.
It's a good start. Usual story here at Zandvoort, you catch. Where do you find a way around? What we have seen in the previous lap, that the straight line performance of the Ferrari is more than enough to keep Gounon behind. So what are his options? Well, the corners or the braking, or ultimately the driver, pit stop, a set of new tyres on, and off you go. So whether the ACA team can manage to get that car turned around ahead of the Ferrari, we wait and see. That's a little bit further down the road, probably another 20 minutes or so.
Race leaders then sweep now through turn 8, the Masters box, which took its name from the annual Formula 3 competition that Zandvoort used to have. Very successful event for many, many years. A sort of midsummer equivalent of Macau, when all the different nations would get together and have the shootout. Now there is Timur Boguslavski aboard 89, and he's on the tail of Jean-Baptiste Simonard. The Gulf liveried Thomas Neubauer driven Audi comes up to try to make a move against Gilles Magnus. They are oh so close to rubbing. And there it is ultimately Neubauer that comes off worse. So that now brings Casper Stevenson right onto his tail. See the dust brought onto the racetrack there coming out of the Hans Ernst box. But the battles now are starting to take shape.
Yeah, Casper Stevenson tried to take advantage of that, but wasn't quite sufficiently close to the back of the Audi to do anything about it. He thinks maybe he got to run down the straight, down this relatively now short pit straight here at Zandvoort. But here you see straight line performance of all the cars, more or less identical.
Down to Tarzan they come. The lead gap still 0.6 of a second. And Aurélien Panis has jumped up into 4th place now. So Panis has got ahead of Simon Gachet. So Gachet from the outside of the front row, dropping down the order. Aurélien Panis working his way up through the field as Boguslavski thinks about a move here.
Yeah, he goes a little bit higher then to try and get the car down before the exit of the corner to shoot the Mercedes then up the hill and try and make progress. Right, he couldn't get any closer to the rear of that Audi, but what can he do? In the meantime, the gap between first and second has been falling, sort of almost by the sector rather than by the lap.
Now, Patrick Kropinski, who leads Pro-Am, has had a really good first few laps because he started 24th on the grid, and that car is now running in 17th overall. So not only is he doing a great job in class, now putting himself into the lead of it, gaining places within the class as well, but he's absolutely vaulted up the order overall, and that car's going to be taken over by Christian Klein. It will get even quicker in the second stint, so really impressive job being done. There are the race leaders then. You see that change for fourth place, the blue Audi it is now. Panis ahead of Gachet. But Gunon this time perhaps has dropped back ever so slightly from De Pauw.
So the gap now up to 0.8 of a second, first to second, coming on the fifth lap. There'll be a cross start finish line any second, and the gaps through the field pretty equidistant.
0.8 of a second, Wirtz now has in hand over this man, Ulysse De Pauw. Now remember that De Pauw, in terms of the championship, is after, yes, good results overall, but winning the Silver Cup is the main thing. They've had 3 wins in 4 races in silver. Ulysse De Pauw and Pierre-Alexandre Jean. The gap closes into the Hugenholz-Bocht, but they, of course, lead the Silver Cup in the championship, and that's the main target. Overall victories, overall positions, almost secondary.
So up again through the sand dunes we go, into Schleifelach and down the hill. Charles Weerts controlling that gap 0.8 of a second to the Ferrari. Would like to get it extended as much as possible. One little mistake by Weerts, and the Ferrari will be all ready to pounce. And of course, Gunon directly behind, a further 0.8 of a second behind the Ferrari. So the gaps between first to second, second to third, pretty much equidistant.
Out of turn 9 they come then, and look further back. You see Christian Klein go through. Chris Froggatt's been another man on a mission, and in replay, let's catch up with the Mercedes trying to gain ground into the Hugenholz-Bocht, goes to the outside of Ramos and keeps on going and comes up ahead. That was a very brave move. This is how Valentino Rossi saw it, John.
Yeah, he's sitting back thinking, I wonder if I could maybe do the same thing. But even Froggatt at the back of the Mercedes stepped out. But he was committed. He was going to go round the outside, whatever. Did Rossi gain that? I think he did.
Yeah. So one round the outside, one up the inside. Ramos in Pro-Am drops back, but very, very bold move. That really brave stuff by Chris Froggatt. Up the outside on the banking, and it worked for him, and Rossi gains a place as well. Now, this is fourth. This is Aurélien Panis for Saint-Aloc, just ahead of the car collection Audi of Simon Gachet, and there are the leaders with those gaps just starting to extend a little bit. These two Audis much, much closer now, and so Gachet, having lost the place, wants it back.
Yeah, see, I mean, he's on the front row of the grid, dropped all the way back now. He's seemingly found the natural pace, but of course he's caught up to the rear of Panis, but where will he find a way around? Identical cars, identical performances. Likewise, Gunon has managed to get a couple of tenths of a second, shaved off the gap second to third. So Ulysse De Pauw will be thinking, is that Mercedes bigger in my mirror, or is it my imagination?
Panis having to go defensive, and I just wonder now, the pace of Gachet's Audi looking better than it was, suggesting that now the tyres have finally come to life on that car. He's got the pace and the confidence to push once more, and Panis is not getting away, that's for certain.
No. And the gap between that and third place is actually up to 2 seconds. So this is a battle for fourth position ultimately. And I don't think Panis has got anything left in the tank to do anything about charging up to the back of Jules Gunon. So his focus is going to be on what's happening behind, rather than maybe thinking, how can I run down or get up to the tail of Jules Gunon in third place.
And Miguel Ramos, that we'd seen losing places, has come into the pit lane. So maybe that McLaren had a problem, which was why all of a sudden Chris Froggatt was able to go bravely around the outside to gain that place. In terms of the fastest speeds, the McLaren's looking pretty racy, aren't they? Kropinski, Lind, Maldonado heading the actual top speed at 259, then 257 kilometres an hour. And there is a troubled McLaren. That is Miguel Ramos for Garage 59, and he's in the pits.
Yes, and I think that's probably going to be the end of the race. Of smoke or steam or whatever coming from around the rear, whether that's gearbox or hydraulics, hard to tell, looking, second guessing from the commentary booth.
Now Bogoslawski there on the inside, look, trying to get in the traffic, and he gets into the side of the Audi and he turns around Jean-Baptiste Simonard. That puts Simonard in the gravel. That was a bit clumsy.
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable that happens when you get 3 cars into the space of one into Tarzan. Whether that will see a penalty for Bogoslawski or not, we wait to see, but it was avoidable, but in the circumstances, watch again and see the Mercedes dives down the inside. The Audi doesn't see it coming, the 33 Audi, and all of a sudden, Mercedes runs up the track, the Audi coming down. That's the penalty of going the long way around. Tarzan, you've got to be aware that the car below you is going to run up the side of the racetrack.
Well, certainly Jean-Baptiste Simonard came off worse. He was 15th, he'll be lower than that now. He did get going again, as you saw, so thankfully the race continues unaffected. Charles Wirt's last lap through was the best of the race as the fuel load comes down. So Charles Wirtz now is over a second clear of Ulysse de Pauw in second place in that Silver Cup leading Ferrari. Jules Gounon is third, Aurélien Panis is fourth, fifth is Simon Gachet, and it is Peter Schothorst for Attempto rounding out the top 6.
So race leader comes across start-finish line to complete lap 8. And we're somewhat 13 minutes or so into this 1 hour race, seemingly stretching the gap a fraction more to the Ferrari. Well, it's up to 1.4 seconds, and the Ferrari likewise. Oh, Chris Froggatt looks at the back of the 46. I tell you what is going on. Well, he's got a problem, or has he a problem?
Rossi has got ahead of Froggatt, and now Maldonado's got ahead of Froggatt as well. So Rossi had jumped the Mercedes, Froggatt trying to fight back, and just got himself into a little bit of strife, and that's enabled that McLaren to jump past as well.
Yeah, and that was really more down to Froggatt than anything else. So we saw that courageous move by making the pass on the McLaren around the outside in Hugenholz a few minutes ago. So where is the scene? There we go, down the outside, Valentino on the brakes, gets up alongside, and he makes it stick. And of course that makes the Mercedes run wide, and Froggatt had to get out of the gas. He couldn't really go alongside the Audi on the exit of that Hans Ernst Bock. So down the hill, this is the Sky Tempesta. Where is they? There it is, the 46. Go away! He's not going to go away. He's taken that position away. And then not only does he lose one position, he loses another position as he come up into the Ernst Bock. Here we go, and that's where it gets sideways. Watch up the inside. Where's the Audi? There it is, the McLaren slips through.
This is how Valentino Rossi made that move. Dives to the outside for the first part, that gives him track position for the second. Really good racecraft, that.
That was excellent. I mean, that was a good overtake, well worked out. Excellent on the brakes, and that was the key to it. Fred Verviche, come on, Fred, the co-driver of Valentino Rossi. Come on, that's a bit of a... Yeah, we want more, Valentino.
We forced a smile out of him, and we understand from Gemma in the pits that the Miguel Ramos McLaren was a gearbox issue that brought that in. Right, leaders go by. A second and a half now is the margin, as here, nose to tail. Gilles Magnus just ahead of Thomas Neubauer, who goes diving to the outside line into Tarzan. The two Audis, similar car, run by different teams, absolutely nose to tail. But Gilles Magnus sticks out his elbows and hangs on to the place.
He was aware of what was going on. He used his advantage to his full advantage and kept Neubauer behind him. So two cars, identical performance. Where are you going to find a way around? Well, go a bit creative. That's what Neubauer did, but it didn't work. So maybe have to think of an alternative strategy. Maybe somewhere else around the racetrack, but there are not a great deal of places around the Zandvoort racetrack where you can make these overtakes stick.
Well, this now is Timo Bogoslawski's view. Nothing as yet has appeared on the message line of the screen suggesting he's being looked at for that drama at turn 1, but it could be in the system. He's on the tail now of Danny Cruz, going for 14th place overall. Let's ride with Bogoslawski.
Well, a good job by the Lamborghini, Thomas Cruz, and keeping ahead of what is a winning car, but not at this point, and no chance in reality of Timo Bogoslawski getting from his position right now, which is 15th, onto a podium. Well, I say that.
Look who's behind them, though. Patrick Krupinski in the Pro-Am leading McLaren, doing an outstanding job here. 16th overall, and look at the pace that he's got. That car doing a very, very good job. Krupinski made his money in business many years ago. He owns this team. He's a very accomplished driver now as well. Here once more, Neubauer on the back of Gilles Magnus. He had one go at Tarzan hairpin a lap ago. It didn't work, but the move starts now.
He's got a great opportunity. This is deja vu. 1 lap ago, these two cars almost as one. Again, Neubauer forced to out to the left as he dives into Tarzan. Now make the undercut. Undercut now.
Tries it, he's up the curb, and he couldn't square up alongside Gilles Magnus is Audi, so that hangs on to position. This is for 11th and 12th in the Silver Cup. It remains Ulysse de Pauw ahead of Igo Walilko. Very, very wide goes Magnus, but he's still ahead because he's able to fire the car out of the corner well enough.
The high line out of Hugenholz is the quicker line, but I tell you what, absolutely great racing between these two. Thomas Neubauer looking every way possible to find a way to get the Gulf liveried WRT Audi ahead.
Incident involving car 26 at the 15 seconds board on the grid under investigation.
So at the 15-second board, the car has to be, of course, down on the ground. Belts have to be done. Everything has to be good to go. So what's occurred for 26? We'll try to get to the bottom of. It is Gilles Magnus's car that you're looking at, the red Audi at the head of this battle pack. So Gilles Magnus did something on the grid, or a team member may still have been on the grid, but either way, that's being looked at, and a penalty could come.
Yeah, I mean, the regulations are adhered to absolutely without any mercy whatsoever. So something that really should not have happened, but there always will be a reason why. Now what's Valentino Rossi trying to get up onto the tail of the 54 Adrian Delinea Porsche. So he made a great pass a couple of laps earlier. Valentino Rossi, close as you can get coming into Kumo corner. Runs up the top of the circuit now. How much straight line performance has Porsche got versus Audi? Well, you can see the Porsche is just pulling away ever so little, almost by the meter. Valentino Rossi pushing his right foot through the bulkhead. Nothing he can do, and he's now under challenge as well down the inside. Oh, very, very close indeed. So Maldonado thought about it. He was thinking that Valentino's thinking more about passing the Porsche than defending his current position.
It's good to see Valentino Rossi making this progress, and another position beckons because he's got the good speed here to get right onto the tail of that Porsche. But now look at Maldonado in the McLaren looking very, very competitive as well.
Watch up through the Rob Schlottemacher curve. That's where I think the McLaren might have gained a little bit of speed, but it's all been negated as they get up to the top of the hill and they drop down in through Schlevlach. When Valentino Rossi, I think now in this race, is showing more of what I would imagine the spirit of the racing driver, motorcycle. Oh, no, I've spoken too soon.
Round he goes. Thankfully, it's run off tarmac, not gravel there. So Valentino Rossi is able to rejoin. John, you've torn it now.
But he was having a go. That's the main thing. He was racing.
No damage done in terms of what's happened to the car. Loss of place, yes, but he's still in the race. He'll be able to regroup and catch back up again.
But he'll have a threepenny bit tyre. Watch and see. Here he goes. The back end starts to steer away. Round it goes, a high-speed spin. Those tyres are going to be pretty flat-spotted all around. Hopefully not sufficiently bad that'll make an O, and there it goes again. That's the onboard shot of what happened. And I mean, at the point
incident involving car 89 and 33 in turn 1 under investigation.
That was what we were predicting for Timo Boguslavski. And just to tidy off the Gilles Magnus incident, I understand it was that the tools were not cleared from the grid. So that's why that is being looked at. Obviously, at the 15-second board, everybody has to be off the grid, so does all the equipment. Charles Weerts leads the way for WRT, the same team that operates the rotating car of Valentino Rossi that has now dropped back down to 23rd, where he started.
Yeah. And there is... Which of the engineers?
No, that's the incident. You see, that, so there's something left on the grid that is being brought away.
It's not exactly like a shift spanner, is it? I mean, it's not something you might leave and not see it. I mean, it's a pretty big item. So, human error, let's put it that way.
Equipment on the grid, that's what's being looked at by the race officials, as there is the race leader. Charles Weerts drops down now into the Hans-Ernst-Bocht. In fairness, that was just before the 15-second board came out, so I'm sure that's going to be looked at closely. As you now see, second and third together, Jules Gounon is inching back up onto the tail of that Ferrari.
Yeah, and he got to this distance to the Ferrari about 5 or 6 laps ago, then he dropped back a little bit now, sort of regrouping, hoping he can maybe find a way. But again, here the start-finish straight at Zandvoort is short. So cars are accelerating up to their maximum speed. They're not getting to a maximum speed and then maintaining it. And that makes life a little bit more difficult when you come down into a corner like Tarzan. Normally a great opportunity to overtake, but again, one that's easily defended if you tend to hug the inside line.
So Jules Gounon now trying to apply pressure. At least the power's not going to make life easy, of course, but Jules Gounon will be eager to try to force an error out of the Belgian driver as they sweep through the Robert Schlottemacher box up towards Schleifelach once more. And this is a part of the circuit where the Mercedes can stretch its legs, all of that grunt. Now, into that right-hander, fast corner. You've got to be really brave here to make a move, accelerate out the other side of it. Little kink, and then down towards turn 8.
So this is into turn 9, then sort of a long... So this is turn 9, I beg your pardon. So Mercedes able to hold the more traditional, the tighter line than the Ferrari. So this is the point. Again, look how wide the Ferrari is, and that can't even make that late apex. So that's giving Jules Gounon great hope that the front end of the Ferrari isn't really delivering the kind of grip that the Ulysse de Pauw would like down into this tight left-hand Ernst Bock.
Now the pit window is just about 3 minutes away from opening. The team manager of Timur Boguslavski's Mercedes is being summoned to see the steward, so I think we know what's coming out of that. And up towards the end of the lap comes Gunnar. Now this battle continues, but it might well be interrupted by the opening of the window. If you're stuck in traffic, it might make sense to bail early and try and do the undercut.
Yes, and that's the case in point with Gunnar in the 88 Mercedes. Put Jim Pla in, but come in early and try and leapfrog the Ferrari that's running ahead of you that you're not really able to do anything about overtaking.
Everybody else comes pouring over the line, including Gilles Magnus, who is fending off that challenge of Thomas Neubauer still. Casper Stevenson has fallen back a little bit, and now look, Gunnar is even closer again at turn 3.
Yeah, remember the Ferrari, the front end of the Ferrari in those middle to low speed corners doesn't look as if it's got the grip, the balance that the Mercedes behind has, and it's from here all the way through, all the way back down to that Hans Ernst Bock, that tight right-left. It's a chicane in effect. So watch again to see what the Ferrari does, how much lock has got to go on. I mean, struggling to get the nose of the car into the apex, particularly here into turn 9. We saw in the previous lap how much better this lap. Maybe Ulysse de Pauw didn't try and push quite so hard to give the tire a better chance of recovery, but again in turn 10, struggling to get the nose of the car in.
Gunnar stands on the brakes, down through the gears, into the right-left of the Hans Ernst Bock, avoids those markers on the inside there to stop people taking too many liberties with track limits. They are still nose to tail. Now, if Gunnar's going to try and make a move at turn 1, it's going to start now. He needs a good run all the way through here, the Kumo box and into the line dike curve.
Yes, and what Gunnar needs to do, not try and run up against the Ferrari going into Kumo, be a little bit further back, then maintain your natural pace through the penultimate corner, the final corner, so that when it comes to coming down to the braking zone, you might be that little bit closer to the tail of the Ferrari. Nothing happened in this lap, looking back at 4th and 5th positions. Likewise, and basically all the way through the field, it's follow my leader all the way down the start-finish straight into Tarzan Herpen.
Well, there, over the timing line, quite a long way back now. Timur Boguslavski, 14th, but potentially with a penalty looming, and there is the fight for second. The pit window will be open at the end of this lap, so it might be that Gunnar bails early, put Jim Pla in the car. Jim is 4th in the championship, and try and gain a place that way.
And I would bring in the 89 Mercedes at the same time and take Timur Boguslavski out and put Raffaele Marcello in and see if Marcello can salvage anything, a single point, it doesn't matter, just anything to give that number 89 Mercedes something out of the first of these 2 1-hour sprints.
But the worry for them for the championship is that, of course, number 32 leads very comfortably indeed right now, riding on board with Gunnar again.
So the run down to the Hans Ernst Bock, Hans Ernst Ferrari waiting. And that is the 52, I think, going to come in again. Look at the Ferrari, how unstable, on throttle, the back just sort of momentarily stepping aside. Gunnar sitting behind, watching all this. He's having to back off all the time, otherwise he's going to overrun too soon. Now this final Ari Landijk turn, and round goes the 54. That's coming out of turn 9. We don't know whether that was an assist or whether that was just an Adrian Delina error.
Well, again, he rejoins, so that's coming out of the corner that Rossi had his spin in. Right, into the pit lane comes Ulysse de Pauw, so he gives up second place to Gunnar. Also in as Campanis, also in as Cam Gachet, and I think you can expect Rossi might well come in as well. Get Vervish in that car as soon as possible. Marcello is ready, look, to take over from Boguslavski. Alex Arca is in, Thomas Neubauer is in, and in also is about to come Patrick Krapinski, and I think also possibly Danny Krus has just died for the pit lane. Boguslavski is in.
I think everybody in the pit lane has worked it out. The only way we're going to make progress is if we make our pit stops as early as possible and try and leapfrog the competitor we've been battling about behind as the Ferrari rolls down the pit lane. So it looks like a reasonable waiting to look and see the pit stop time for the respective cars. Anyway, the Ferrari rolling. Here Alexander Jean behind the wheel.
So that car is about to break the pit out beam as it accelerates away. And 55.2 seconds, Ulysse de Pauw's pit stop now, Pierre-Alexandre Jean at the wheel of it. But much quicker was the Patrick Niederhauser, their blue Audi, 53.8. So we'll start to compare these pit stop times against the next wave. when they come in. Boguslavski, now Marciello just about to come out of the pits. There it is in the background, look. So Raffaele Marciello, 51.8. All of a sudden, that makes the Ferrari's pit stop look very, very slow, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, but nevertheless, it's about what the two lead cars, which is Charles Vance and Jules Gougnot, those are the cars that Ferrari really are concerned about. There is the race leader, so they're going to stay out. They've got clear track, but cars now filtering back on to the racetrack.
I was about to say, yeah, that traffic now is the problem for Witt, because clear road ahead has become back markers ahead. Okay, they just made a pit stop as in comes Gougnot to give way to Jim Pla, but now Charles Witt run ahead of him, slightly impeded by cars coming out of the pits back into the race. Number 12 arrives, Luca Giotto to give way. Mattia Drudi in.
Question you might ask is, did WRT maybe make a misjudgment on keeping the 32 Audi out, whereas we've got the 88 Mercedes has come in, so there's going to be a change of driver for that car. If they have a good pit stop, let's hope they have a bit of something, a marker code.
Yeah.
Why is that sitting in the middle of the racetrack? So that's going to be something race director will want to focus on. So there we see the 88 rolling down, so Jim Pla behind the wheel. And where is the Ferrari? Well, that's the Ferrari coming down. So that is an overtake, an easy overtake. So third has become second. Jim Pla in second place, in effect, once all the pit stops are washed through.
Well, remember I said it was 55 seconds for the Ferrari, 52 seconds for the Mercedes. So it was a slow pit stop from AF Corsa, and it's cost them second place. They still lead the Silver Cup, but now there, Jim Pla up into second spot.
And that, I think, could be, I mean, a podium confirming a pit stop. It could even be a challenging race victory pit stop, because now Charles Vance still out on track. WRT, who are the masters of the in-out process, but they've got to do a pit stop which is going to be even quicker than that 52.6.
So Charles Witt, the race leader, should be in this time. He is indeed. There you can see the car makes its way down the pit lane. Dries Van Voor very definitely on his toes there, dancing around, psyching himself up, and now the mechanics will go to work.
And they know that this is going to be certainly the critical pit stop of the race, because this will either make or break. There is what will be ultimately second place, or could even be first place. So through that Hans Erzbach, so the tyres going on, it's going to be, I think, to the advantage of WRT. There the car off the jacks, by a comfortable margin in my opinion, because the Mercedes is yet to come on to start finish straight. It's just about doing it now on board with Jim Pla. The Audi, now, he's got to wait until he comes down to the end of the pit lane, but there's the Mercedes in the background, but the gap is actually extended. What was the time for the Mercedes, for the number 32 Audi? 52.2,
yeah.
Fractiony to there, as you can see visually. It was Ferrari in second place, now it's the Mercedes in second place.
And Valentino Rossi is in to give way to Frederic Lervie, so they've kept him out a little bit longer, give him a bit more track time, because it's all relevant for tomorrow, the more miles he does. So from being a long way down anyway, you could argue that bringing him in early wasn't going to achieve very much. So counter that by giving Valentino Rossi more mileage. Tyres go onto the car, only the two mechanics can work on it. Now you can see how jumbled the order is after the pit stops. Number 1, 1, 2 there, slightly getting in the way of the Audis. That's the McLaren that's just come back into the race, and also now round the outside line there goes the Gulf Audi. And at the back of that group is Raffaele Marciello, so great battle pack is going on here. So you've got Nicholas Bart in the red Audi, having now lost out to Benjamin Goethe. Mattia Drudi is in the mix as well. Who took over the McLaren? It is now Vincent Abril, so really, really good fight going on here.
Yeah, I mean, people literally at one side of the track, then back to the other side. Marciello looking at this, it's like a game of sort of high-speed chess. Where can I place my car to gain one position? And if I gain one position, maybe I can get two, maybe even three, because these three Audis plus the McLaren ahead. Now the long way around turn 10 normally doesn't work. There's the undercut coming off that gives you the run down the hill now, going to the left-hand side, but he needs to be alongside. He needs to do a Rossi coming down into the Hans-Ernst spot, but he hasn't been able to achieve it.
No, indeed. Mattia Drudi fends him off then in the Audi. At the head of this little group, remember, is Vincent Abril. So the cars make that run now towards the Kummerbocht. Turn right, then right again, avoid that cone. And now the banked Arie Luyendyk curve that flicks the cars onto the pit straight. The road straightens out here, and the cars accelerate over the timing line once more. And drama there for the McLaren. Big drama at the front of the car, lots of smoke now. Is that a failure or is that contact? I can't believe it was contact because he was at the head of the group, so some sort of failure potentially.
Well, certainly at the right front, loads of tire smoke, whether it's body rub or whether it's a mechanical failure, that's led to that, but very sudden. The car pulled over to the right-hand side of the track.
Incident involving cars 93 and 54 in turn 9 and noted.
Limping back at best.
Well, real shame for Vincent Abril, only recently into the car then after the pit stops, and that tumbles down the order. The race leader is Manuel Maldonado, but he has yet to stop. Vanthoor to Pla is 2 seconds then, second to third. You're riding on board with Raffaele Marciello.
And just got a face full of dust from the rear of Matteo Drudi. There's the McLaren pulled off on the exit of Tarzan. It's in a relatively safe position, so I don't think we need to see a full course yellow for that car. It'll remain in position.
Right, back on board with Marciello then, trying to get himself up through the order. Remember that ahead of Raffaele right now is Matteo Drudi, but Drudi in turn is looking for a way past Nicholas Bart, so there are lots of squabbles going on here. That McLaren, sad to say, out of the race that you've just caught a glimpse of. Christopher Haase, by the way, number 11, having taken over from Simon Gachet, has done the fastest lap of the race, and he's up into 6th position now, as we have got just under 27 minutes to go.
So on board still with Raffaele Marciello, and mates, I'm stuck. I've got 2 Audis, I've got maybe 3 Audis, all in a sort of a line, a meandering line coming down into Tarzan. Again, just decide I'm going to go high and drop down, I'm going to go low and swing up. Well, the 2 Audis are like a couple of ferrets in a sack as Drudi and Beat battle for what is going to be 12th position. There's the Mercedes running in 14th, runs, well, the sort of the average line you would take if you're running on your own. Neither an attacking line or a defensive line. It's the attacking line that really he is looking for.
So Marciello tries to find a gap somewhere, and if he can't find a gap, how is he going to prise open that door? Of course, Matteo Drudi is an accomplished driver himself. He's not going to easily allow Marciello to go by. As you look at Patrick Niederhauser here, now he's running in 5th. That's Christopher Haase behind him. Santalok Audi versus Car Collection Audi. Into turn 8 they come, almost as one. Pierre-Alexandre Jean just up the road in the Ferrari, 4th overall, having lost a place on the pit stops to Jim Pla. That will become 3rd once Maldonado pits. Speeds at turn 13, it's the Patrick Niederhauser Audi, the fastest on 127 kilometres an hour, matched by the Ferrari that now is being driven by Cedric Sparazioli, and also Patrick Kropinski, now Christian Klein at the wheel of 111 McLaren. Still that cone sits in the middle of the road, but as the leaders now come down towards turn 1, into the pits has come Maldonado, so Vanthoor leads on track now.
Yes, and the gap he's got 1st to 2nd is in effect just under 2 seconds. So Dries Vanthoor has got a comfortable, as such a 2-second advantage can be. But here in Zandvoort, a 2-second advantage is almost as 2 minutes. Where are you going to find the time? Look at Raffaele Marciello, man who is absolutely a magician behind the wheel in a Mercedes-Benz. Well, he's found a way around one of the 2 Audis, but now can he make it past the second of those 2? He's got Nicholas Beat has been demoted, so Drudi and Marciello found their way through. We didn't catch that on camera. Maybe we will see it on the replay.
Well, Vanthoor leads the way then. His last lap was a personal best, a 1:35.182, coming out of the leading Audi right.
Drive-through penalty to car 26. Infringement on the starting procedure.
So 26, now Nicholas Bart taking over from Gilles Magnus, being given that drive-through for the equipment left on the grid. This is the Marciello move, John. Let's have a look at it. Oh, the Audi did make a small error. Sideways, door opens, through on the inside.
Yeah, and that's what old Marciello could hope for, is that you force an error from a car you're pursuing, and that happened. And that was a good move in master book. Well, that was a master class in how to force an error out of a competitor you're looking to find a way around. It was made easy for Marciello, just the pressure, and maybe the Audi is losing a little bit of grip overall, but now a slightly more difficult task to find a way around Matteo Drudi. He's not going to make maybe that kind of error. A lot more skilled, a lot more experienced, and Raffaele Marciello knows that.
Now, number 26, Nicholas Bart, had just lost that place to Marciello, as you'd seen. Now the drive-through beckons, so that is going to drop down and down and down the order as the cars turn into Tarzan hairpin. Still that yellow flag coming out of Tarzan, of course, for the 112 McLaren. There it is by the side of the road. and that's going no further, of course, than this mechanical drama. Right, Dries van Voort to Jim Pla, 2.1 seconds. Last time, Pla fractionally quicker.
I mean, it's ebbing and flowing. Dries van Voort has got that, I would say, a comfortable 2-second advantage. There you see the gap. It is visually, well, I would say, but is that 2 seconds? Maybe it's actually come down
4,
a fraction.
3,
Full course yellow is being called for.
1.
Full course yellow now.
Now.
This could be for the cone, quickly to remove that. It could be to try and get the McLaren out of the way. Now that the pit window is closed, the order isn't going to be affected by the throwing of a situation. I think it's a full course yellow to get that off the track, actually. In which case, I was going to say it should be done fairly swiftly, but where's the marshal to do it?
Well, I mean, it's there, it's obvious, it's a big distraction, but it's not
No, there's a car to be recovered.
causing an issue for the competitors. But I think it's a tidying up exercise, and in the process, assuming we'll get a safety car following the full course yellow, it will tighten the pack back up. Currently 22 minutes remaining. And
from what I could just hear in the background from the race director, it is to get a car removed. So the code might be tidied, as you say, but I think it will become a safety car procedure to move the McLaren, because that's still being covered by a yellow flag. If you can get that McLaren moved, then of course it's green flag conditions.
Yeah, the trouble also is on the entry into Tarzan, it will also be a yellow flag zone, which then precludes anybody trying to make a move into Tarzan. So you're taking out one of the principal overtaking zones on the racetrack because of this car sitting where it is. So it's a good call by race director. Get that car off the racetrack, let us go back to motor racing and give us a corner where overtaking, if it's possible to overtake at Zandvoort, can actually take place.
So 23 laps are now completed. Full course yellow we are operating at, so 80 kilometers an hour the cars crawl around at. Of course, you can go quicker behind the safety car, so it may well be that when we're ready for the restart, that will be called for, should be the process. It's the norm. Here, there's the snatch vehicle heading to the McLaren.
Interesting, the gap between first and second, which was just over 2 seconds, is now 5.1 seconds. So somehow or other, under this full course yellow, that gap has seemingly increased. There we see the vehicle going to the snatch vehicle, you might call it. That's a loose description. And a disappointment indeed for that car to be, I think Miguel Ramos, it's not Ramos, no, Vincent Abril.
Yeah, the Monegasque driver walks down the pit lane, so Vincent very frustrated, and we'll try and get to the bottom of exactly what it was that stopped the car in its tracks. But he's also got the long walk up the pit lane because their box is at pit in. So safety car on track, as you see, ready for safety car procedure to be called for by Alain Adon, the race director. And that's the race leader, Dries van Voort, who, when we go safety car, will be caught by Jim Pla.
And probably everybody in the field is delighted to see a full course yellow and the almost now automatic safety car, except Dries van Voort. And the advantage of that excellent pit stop by WRT and an outstanding drive, Charles Verts, to bring the car in the lead and to get that car back out in the lead. They'll be sitting thinking, well, was it really necessary? Well, we didn't think it was necessary.
So the clock ticks on down. Dries van Voort makes his way.
Incident involving car 93 and 54 under investigation.
54 was the Porsche we saw Adrian Delina spinning in, and Chris Froggatt in the Mercedes, we understand, we haven't seen it, but we understand from reports, was involved, and therefore contact between the two it's being looked at. That's the Silver Cup leader, Pierre-Alexandre Jean, now back up to third, with Maldonado pitting to give way in the number 159 McLaren that's now got Ethan Simeoni behind the wheel. So again, Pierre-Alexandre Jean on the restart has a chance of gaining a place.
He does. What we saw with the Ferrari before the pit stop, to me, was a little bit lacking front-end bite towards the end of that first stint. Maybe now Pierre-Alexandre Jean behind the wheel, might a different driver, slightly different style. Maybe he will preserve those front tires and have something left in the tank that when we go back to green, thinks a challenge on the second place Jim Pla Mercedes might be viable.
Safety car procedure, lights on, lights on.
So the safety car now is called for. That is so the cars can go faster. Yes, bunching up is a byproduct of this, but the whole idea is to allow them to go faster so that tyre temperatures, tyre pressures come back up, and therefore they're safer race cars at that restart. So a lap or two to get things back up to operating temperature. There is the surviving JP Motorsport McLaren, Christian clean at the wheel of Patrick Krupinski's car. 17th overall. Remember that if you're in Pro-Am, you have to do a timed pit stop, 62 seconds, so they always lose out in the second stint because of the time lost in the pits, but this brings it back into the game with a safety car process after the pit window is closed.
So Christian Clean in the 17th position, and he's got Fred Vervies in the 46 Audi will be directly behind him. So Vervies versus Christian Clean, an interesting dynamic, I would think, as race leader, and now second, third, well, covered by what you can see on screen, 4th, 5th, 6th, but it's the first three that when the safety car returns to the pit lane and this race gets back underway, we'll probably have about 16 or more minutes of this race to go. I don't know how long the safety car intervention will take. I suspect not very long, to ensure that the field is all rebunched, and then lights out and dash for, well, I was going to say dash for the cash, but actually more importantly, dash for the points, ultimately for the cash.
The dash in the dunes, down through turn 9 they come. Lights are still flashing, as you see, on top of the safety car. When those go out, it's the indication it will peel off at the end of that lap. Might be one more, partly to allow other people to catch up, but also to have one more fast lap, accelerating them out, down towards the Hans-Ernst Bock they come. You see drivers weaving, accelerating, and then slowing a little to try to urge a bit more warmth into the rubber. There is the Lamborghini of Lucas Ayrton Maron at the wheel of it, trying to play catch up, so we're almost there, but the lights are still on, so there's going to be one more lap.
Yeah, so Dries van Thor having to resort to a little bit of weaving to put energy into the carcass of the tyre. Not many others around the field are doing it, as you can see there. The Mercedes, just two cars deciding, well, they think the pace that they're now running at might be sufficient. And in some cases, maybe they're feeling that maybe our temperatures, it is quite a warm day. It's 29 Celsius track, 25 ambient. It was warmer actually on Friday than it is right now.
Still quite breezy, of course, as well at Zandvoort. Right, 16 minutes are on the clock.
Safety car in this lap. Safety car in this lap.
And you hear Alain Adon announce to everybody, teams, to us, that the safety car will be in this time, and then we'll go back to racing. So it's going to be Dries van Thor versus Jim Pla on the run towards Tarzan, and Dries van Thor, once the safety car peels in, will control the restart.
15 minutes of racing will be what's left when the safety car comes into the pit lane, and the pace of the field, it is generally picking up, but you get the odd one that maybe hasn't received the message that the safety car will be coming in, so you want to be on your toes, because for everybody in this field, this is going to be an opportunity not to be missed.
Pierre-Alexandre Jean leading silver, third overall. Petru Umbrescu is second in silver, currently running in 7th, and third in silver, Thomas Drouet. Drouet taking over from Casper Stevenson, and the car of Umbrescu is that was started by Igor Welilko, so that's quite a good job there to be second in class. So one or two more investigations are going to be looked at the end of the race by the stewards. So we've got race 2 tomorrow, and we'll update you on one or two of the stories if the results change when we get to that, because, as I say, there are still things in the system. Right, we're almost ready. See the safety car has scarpered into the distance. Dries van Thor slows right down, stacks up the field, and he wants to try and outfox now Jim Pla and make a good restart coming through the Hans-Ernst Bock.
Question is, where and when is he going to go? He's backing up the Mercedes, backing it up, forcing the Jim Pla to get off the throttle, on the brakes, on and off. Dries van Thor can do what he likes. He's in control of this restart. He's going to go through the Como, right, he's gone. Off he goes. So the Audi has taken the advantage, well, fractional, because Jim Pla was on his toes at the same time.
That was a good restart by Pla. Of course,
green flag, green
to sort of
flag.
Wait to see whether the car ahead of you is committing to accelerate, and Jim Pla read that absolutely right. So they are close. He pulls out to have a tentative look, and there, look, going defensive is Pierre-Alexandre Jean, because Patrick Niederhauser is right there behind him, diving into the first corner. 3/10 of a second was the leading gap.
And that was a good start. Everybody got through Tarzan without any contact. A little bit of racing further down the field, but the gap 3rd, 4th and 5th, really, Jean, Niederhauser, Christopher Haase, that's where most of the action is going to be, as race leader, and second place beginning to marginally stretch away from the rest of the field.
I was just wondering whether or not Jim Clark wasn't dropping away again and into the clutches. Yes, he is, of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. So again, part of this is tyre temperature after that safety car procedure. Look at the way that Dries Van Voor is disappearing up the road, and suddenly this long line of cars for second place suggests that Jim Clark is vulnerable because Pierre-Alexandre Jean has a look to the inside line. This ain't over yet.
It is not, and Dries Van Voor was one of the cars we saw weaving around, trying to get temperature into the tyres, and maybe he succeeded in doing it better than anybody else behind.
Now the Ferrari drops back a length or so coming out of turn 9. So on board here with Raffaele Marciello. 12th on the road, down to the Hans Bock they come. 13 more minutes of the race. And they're a big dive up on the inside. That's Mathieu Drudy trying to get past Benji Goethe. It doesn't work, but Marciello tries to buy into this.
Yeah, he saw what was going on the two Audis, looking for the same bit of racetrack and not being able to be cleared up the inside. Wow, now Marciello's got an opportunity. Gets past the Gulf-sponsored car. So Goethe has been down one position. Where is the Mercedes? There it is, looking to find another. He's got the opportunity now. He's got the run. But look at this pack of cars. Well, it's almost like the restart of the race, literally. And where is the Mercedes? It's gone to the outside. But it's the wrong part of the racetrack, unless he's brave and can make it stick around the outside. Oh, it's close. There's going to be tight going up into the quick Laren into turn 2. And Marciello has been actually outmaneuvered by those ahead of him. A chance to come back as they go into the Hugenholz Hairpin. Up on the outside now of the Mercedes, and Marciello trying to find a way. Thomas Drouet is the car he's trying to find past. Drouet's got ahead of the Audi. Marciello behind.
He got a bit stuck, didn't he, with traffic all around it. Did I see a spot of liquid on a camera lens or two? We've got Marciello then coming out of turn 7, right on the tail of Mathieu Drudy. Just under 12 more minutes of the race to go. It's got a bit more overcast in the last hour, that's for sure. So temperatures dropped to touch as well. The cars work their way into turn 9. And we know that the temperatures can affect the way the tyres operate this year. So as the field accelerates down towards the Hans Ernst Bock on lap 28, we have almost 11 minutes still to run, just slightly over that. But what a great restart by Van Voor. He's just disappeared up the road, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got on just under 2 seconds advantage over Jim Clark. He's happy enough, I think, to finish on second place. And Pierre-Alexandre Jean further 0.6 of a second behind. That's a potential second place if he can get a good run. As we go back on board, Raffaele Marciello running behind again. Matteo Drudy not going to see the same kind of errors that we saw maybe a bit earlier from Benjamin Goethe. And there is the Mercedes right on the tail of the Audi, closing on it, gets that defense from Audi. Drew knows he's got to make it hard for Marciello. He's going to swing out to the left as he comes down into Tarzan, and will I go a long way around the outside? The Audi might get boxed in by Thomas Drouet directly ahead, and oh, Marciello, wow!
And look at this, you've got there Umbrescu battling with Benji Goethe. That's for second in silver. Goethe to the inside line, goes through, and also trying to make a move there. Look, it's Christopher Mies. He's got past the Mercedes. He's about to make a move against the other Audi as well. Side by side, Mies in the blue and white Audi goes through. 2 places in 2 corners, outstanding.
I tell you what, you cannot buy experience. That's what Christopher Mies has got. He saw what was happening. He knows what he needs to do, and he just executed it perfectly.
Here you go again. Look at the outside line. Goethe makes his move on the inside, and Mies just slingshots across the road.
Yep, and he then was on the right part of the racetrack, climbing up the hill, up through Rob Schlutermacher into Schlevek, and then found the position. Wow, Christopher Mies, you haven't lost it yet.
Go back nearly an hour. We were talking about overtaking out of turn 3. Well, Christopher Mies certainly has got a line on which it worked for him. Raffaele Marciello right there on the back of Mathieu Drudy. This is for 9th and 10th places. Marciello tries to level with the Audi down towards turn 11. Can't do it.
Drudy too wise. But again, Marciello quicker in the middle of Hans Ernst Bock corner. But Drudy just places the Audi always in the bit of racetrack. That's compromising Marciello. Again, this is the long Harry Landijk, the bank corner. The gap between the Audi, the gap to the Audi from the Mercedes. Look at this battle going on right now for 3rd, 4th, 5th place. Niederhauser, contact almost with the Silver Cup from a pro driver. And in 5th place, Christopher Haase. Well, can he pick up any tears before this race is finished?
Well, you've got Christopher Haase 5th, Niederhauser 4th, 3rd, Pierre-Alexandre Jean, who to a degree needs to pick his battles here because it's silver versus 2 Pro Cup cars. The Ferrari stays ahead, but look at Christopher Haase. Curb, grass, dirt and all, and he's gone through, has he? Yes, he has. Christopher Haase goes through. you can't buy experience, can you?
I think I might have said that somewhere in the broadcast. You can't.
So the two Christophers showing these upstarts what they're all about. Mies gains ground, a lap later Hauser gains ground, and there, look, Patrick Niederhauser now being caught by Dennis Marshall. But Christopher Hauser has not given up yet. So that car that was second on the grid might gain another position before the very end, because Hauser now is all over the back of Pierre-Alexandre Jean in the Ferrari.
Yeah, and Christopher Hauser, we're waiting to see whether the Ferrari is beginning to struggle as it did before the first round of pit stops, or the only round of pit stops, down the hill into Hans Ernst Bock. So Hauser, look at that. You can see the pace he's got. Look quicker in the middle of that sort of right-left now, coming up into Kumo. Looks to put the nose, just distract Pierre-Alexandre Jean. Force him to look in his mirrors and not focus on what he needs to do, and that's just looking directly ahead.
Marciello in strife. Look, he's gone wide. He's got a problem.
I think he's got a problem.
Punctured tyre. There is a replacement tyre. It's a used tyre, but it's a replacement.
Remember, a couple of laps ago, he went very, very wide.
Yeah.
That may be the consequence.
Front right's gone down. So Marciello limps to the pit lane. He will be furious, because this is big points lost to the championship rivals. In he comes.
I don't know whether there was contact that forced the Mercedes wide, or whether that was just something Marciello himself, but whatever it is, that's curtains to any points in this, the first of these two one-hour sprint events here at Zandvoort. And I mean, he was on the cusp of maybe getting that one single point for 10th place.
So fresh qualifying tomorrow, he will do the time, and hopefully it'll be a better grid position for Timo Bogoslavsky to consolidate. But right now, that car is just about going to stay on the lead lap as he blasts back into the race. Now, is this what caused it? Let's see. Was this contact with Drudy? Let's have a look. Goes wide. That was a couple of laps ago.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we saw him coming back on track. We didn't see the cause of that contact. So whether it was a cut on the sidewall, we can't tell. The team are looking at the tyre. Pirelli will take that tyre away, examine it, and give the team a report as to what caused the tyre to deflate as we go down into Hans Ernst Bock once again. Third, fourth, fifth positions, all at each other's throats, basically.
Well, that means up into the top 10 goes Christopher Mies, and here Pierre-Alexandre Jean is still keeping Christopher Hauser at bay. Second of the silvers is the Nicolas Scholl-driven Audi. Third of the silvers now is Thomas Drouet. This means that Petru Umberescu, who was second a few laps ago, has dropped a long way back, 5th in class and 13th overall. Through goes Jim Pla, who in turn has disappeared, hasn't he, from the Ferrari, largely because PAJ is trying to keep everybody else behind him, and he's driving a slower, more defensive race.
But also, he's in a different class. He doesn't need second place. Second place would be a bonus, but he doesn't need to. All he's got to do is win his class. And if he gets on the podium, happy days.
But he is still defending that third place from cars in a separate class, so you can argue he doesn't need to be doing that either, but he is keeping hold of third for the moment. Through the Rob Slottermacher box they come, and the team, the ACA, or now Acodis ASP team, saying it was contact with Marciello and Drudy that caused the puncture. We'd seen him in replay going off the road from that onboard, but it was a brush between the two of them, according to the team. Now, back into the race went Marciello, but he's 23rd.
Well, side by side in turn 9, and has Christopher Hauser got the job done? He's going to go the long way around the outside. Will the Ferrari just run the Audi wide? No, it stays relatively tight, and the advantage has gone to Christopher Hauser. That, again, I think is a mirror of what we had maybe seen before the round of pit stops, and that is that the Ferrari hasn't got the front end bite that the competitors around it appear to, and in particular Christopher Hauser. Christopher Hauser worked that out again from about 3 corners back to force the Ferrari into doing something that maybe Pierre-Alexandre Jean didn't want to do.
So that puts Christopher Hauser third. Now there is Fred Verviche, currently running in 15th place, number 46, the car that he's taken over from Valentino Rossi, the spare car. Damage in the free practice session yesterday when Valentino went off at turn 2 meant that they got the spare. This is a big dive from Niederhauser against Pierre-Alexandre Jean, who can let him go. He's not fighting that car in class, but the Ferrari does stand its ground and he keeps the position.
But you need to be careful. Any contact from the 25 Audi with the Ferrari could force a penalty, because that's a different car. You can't say Pierre-Alexandre Jean is what you might describe as a gentleman driver, but he's in a different category. So it would be an interesting view if any contact did occur, if there was any blame or penalty apportioned.
This second stint, certainly a lively one, with lots of people taking more of a gamble, perhaps more of a risk, more of a fight to try to gain a place. So Pierre-Alexandre Jean 4th, and the man that currently leads in silver doesn't want to give away too many places, because the second place silver car is the second of those dark coloured Audis in the background. So he needs to try and hang on in there as best he can. 3.5 minutes just over, still to go.
Oh, catch your breath here for a minute. That's actually giving us a momentary break, because the gaps are fractionally opening up between 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th.
Now there's Nicolas Scherl. This is the car that's second in silver, and you can see how close he is to the back of the sister car of Dennis Marshall, which is on the back of Niederhauser, which is on the back of the silver leader, Pierre-Alexandre Jean. So he does need to put up a bit of a fight so he doesn't fall into the clutches of the class rival.
So with just over 3 minutes, fractions over 3 minutes of this race remaining, it'll be this lap, one more lap, and I think we'll see the checkered flag falling. As long as Pierre-Alexandre Jean doesn't sucker for what's going on behind him. In other words, just dismiss what you might see on your TV screen, which acts as a mirror, or any mirrors you may have within the Ferrari. Just focus on what you're doing directly ahead, and you might be able to consolidate that 4th position.
Raffaele Marciello has just done an absolute best in the first sector. He's absolutely furious, but he's also in clear track space now, so that's enabling him to go faster, but he's still mired in 23rd place out of the point. So it's a bad day at the office, as it was here 12 months ago, really, for Raffaele Marciello, as Pierre-Alexandre Jean is still coming under attack. They're going through Dennis Marshall, Nicolas Scherl, catching.
So this is the part of the racetrack that we've seen the Ferrari be maybe less competitive than those around it. So Pierre-Alexandre Jean, it's better to be slow into these corners rather than trying to force your pace, but get the drive, get the throttle and acceleration, so that you're not allowing yourself to be compromised. As race leader Dries van Thor, 2.5 second, or in effect 2.5 second advantage over Jim Pla in second.
It's been a really measured stint, hasn't it, from Dries van Thor? He's going to have one more lap to go, as there in second place is the Mercedes. Now the gap 2.7 seconds. It's creeping up from what it was at the start of the lap. So Dries van Thor finally looks as though a Zandvoort win is going to go his way. Now let's just see where he is in relation to the timing line. Is it going to be the last lap as the car comes through? It's going to be close, but he breaks the beam now with just about less than a lap time left. So this should be the last lap for him.
It should be, if it's not, there's about a second over there. We see battle again for 4th place defense from the Ferrari, and forcing Niederhauser to look at an alternative way. He wants to get up the inside. He's thinking about positioning himself for the hook and hose hairpin, trying to force the Ferrari to do what Niederhauser wants it to do. Now, will he dive up the high line or undercut back down as quickly as he possibly can? But he hasn't got the pace. Ferrari's consolidated momentarily as they go now into this Rob Schlottemacher, this long left-hander, which then transfers back to the right, and then to the downhill Schlavlock. Great corner, best corner for me here at Zandvoort.
Through that right, it drops down, it climbs again the other side, then up towards the Masters box. The Ferrari certainly is under pressure. Pierre-Alexandre Jean doing his best to hang on to the place. Just over half a minute of the race remains. So Patrick Niederhauser for Santalok in the blue Audi, attacking but also trying to fend off the challenge of the Attempto car there behind of Dennis Marshall. We're into that last half minute.
Do you know what I would do if I was Dries van Thor? Back off.
Yeah.
Back off. I've got a 2.7 second advantage. I can easily lose 1 second, and that might make the difference between coming across the line on one more lap and the checkered flag.
Well, no doubt the team will be on the radio as 32 Audi, then 10 seconds to go, heads towards the line. It's going to be a win. It's going to be for Dries van Thor and Charles Witt. It's a second of the season, an overdue victory at Zandvoort, up to the checkered flag, which should be there. The clock hits 0. Through it goes. The flag does not come out on time, but the race is over. The clock has hit 0. So Dries van Thor and Charles Witt take the win. Second across the line, Jim Pla and Jules Gounon. And it's a very, very happy Charles Witt then who can celebrate honours. They're going to get another lap, I suspect, because none of the drivers would have seen a flag. So some are going to keep on racing, but the race is over. We've hit the allotted time. So Dries van Thor, victor by 2.8 seconds.
He's still racing.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe the checkered flag. The race is over, but because it was such a close call, literally it was a second, the race had finished before the flag would have been normally displayed. So he is still driving to the checkered flag. And it's just one of those anomalies that occasionally happens where the race time and the lap distance all coincide.
Well, he was half a second over when he crossed the line, so you can understand why the marshal may have thought there was another lap to go. But the race time when he crossed the line at the end of 35 laps was 1 hour, no minutes, no seconds, 0.575. So just half a second over the hour. But that means that the order is confirmed. There will be a flag this time, but the result's taken from when the hour is up. So although he's still trying here, Patrick Niederhauser tries in vain down towards the Hans Ernst box as they come through. So confirmation that the race is over, and I think now the teams are being told this.
So Dries van Voor, in effect, what will be the second time this afternoon, will come across start-finish line. Now the checkered flag, there you see it, is unfurled, and it was just such a close half a second. Second place clearly, and third place directly behind.
And there is the confirmation. Charles Witz embraces Yves, his father. So now checkered flags are displayed on the screen as well as in real life. Everyone feels that they are rather more secure in that position, but there was no argument about it. As I say, he had already crossed the line at the end of the hour. So celebrations at WRT. Charles Witz and Dries van Voor win the first of the 2 races this weekend, and Raffaele Marciello 23rd. Another battle pours over the line, including in the middle of all of that, Christian Klein. He takes 20th place, but of course, even if things did change on that last lap, they don't change in the order, any change on track. So Raffaele Marciello 23rd. That's really bad news for the championship leaders, and Jim Pla there taking second spot, 2.8 seconds behind at the end of the race. Dries van Voor, really impressive restart, and a very good first few laps of that second part, if you like, after the interruption, because he was really able to build a good lead straight off.
Yes, I mean, it's what you expect from WRT, a totally professional drive and pit lane work by the team. So, oh, by the way, just interestingly, the fastest race lap went to Marciello in the end on lap 33 out of a total of 35 laps. So, if that's a consolation, well, that's a consolation to the team.
Did, of course, have a new boot on the car, but fastest lap to Raffaele Marciello. So let's give you the provisional result then. Dries van Voor and Charles Witz, the winners by 2.8 seconds from Jim Pla and Jules Gounod. Simon Gachet and Christopher Hauser recovering for third ahead of Elise de Pauw and Pierre-Alexandre Jean, who win in the Silver Cup. Aurélien Panis and Patrick Niederhauser, fifth from Peter Skokhorst and Dennis Marshall. Seventh, Alex Alka and Nicholas Schurl from Casper Stevenson and Thomas Drouet. They were the second and third place crews in silver. Ninth overall, Luca Giotto and Mathieu Drude. That car losing ground at the start, and Jean-Baptiste Simonard and Christopher Mies taking 10th. Thomas Neubauer and Benji Goethe recovered for 11th ahead of Giorgio Roda and Klaus Bachler. Igor Walilko 13th with Petru Umberescu, who dropped away late race, and Manuel Maldonado and Ethan Simeoni 14th, with Valentino Rossi 15th, sharing as ever with Fred Verviche. Honours in the Pro-Am competition in the end to number 21 Ferrari, Stefano Costatini and Cedric Sprazzioli, getting ahead of Louis Machiels and Andrea Bertolini, and Patrick Krupinski and Christian Klein falling to third place. We didn't see why, but that car was way ahead early on, but falling away during the pit window. And 2 retirements, both McLarens, sad to say, as Dries van Voor arrives in the pit lane under the winner's arch, and Charles Witz strides over to the car. Yet another win for WRT, but this has not been a happy hunting ground for them in the past. Only one podium, and finally, it is a race win for Charles Witz and Dries van Voor. Jules Gounod goes to say congratulations and then heads across the pit apron to go and find Jim Pla and his second place Mercedes.
Yeah, it was a real perfect performance from the 32 Audi. From the minute the lights went out until the checkered flag fell. And again, the team did an excellent job in the pit stop. They didn't have the quickest pit stop. That went to Thomas Drouet, I think 51.6 seconds. A full second, I think, well, certainly half a second quicker than the WRT Audi. So of note, other pit stops were excellent, but the pit stop that consolidated the victory for WRT was that one of 52.2 seconds for the 32 Audi.
And there's the Pro-Am winning Ferrari then. Cedric Sprazzioli brings the car in. Stefano Costatini having done a very good job in the first stint. That is a second victory of the season for Cedric Sprazzioli. Clambers free of the car, experienced monogas driver, and they will be to the podium in due course as well. So we'll have a Pro as well as the Silver and Pro-Am podiums. Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Elise de Pauw, the silver winners, 4th overall. But let's hear from Dries van Voor and Charles Witz, race winners.
Dries, Charles, congratulations. Let's come to you first. Charles, a textbook first stint for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Took well out of the line. Car was really good. We know that everybody suffers a lot from degradation, so the first lap I was just making sure to not overpush, and then the car was just great, and it looked like we suffered a bit less than the Ferrari, so it helped us to breathe a bit, and then I think they were also fighting, so for sure it helped me, and then Dries just did an amazing job, taking the car back home without any mistakes, just like usual. So great job by everybody in the team, and great deal for sure for the championship too.
And like usual, a fantastic pit stop by the team, and then that safety car restart, so well controlled, Dries.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, the win is credit to Charles today. He did a great job in qualifying and then a great first stint. So, I mean, hats off to him. The car was amazing. I mean, the boys really did a great job overnight. We had already some issues yesterday with our long runs that we were just having overheating the rears. But we really solved the issue now, and the car was nice to drive. And the boys again did an amazing pit stop. So, for me, it looked like an easy drive home, but it wasn't. But it sounds like it.
It looked like you pushed hard. Well done to both of you. Fantastic.
Well, 2.8 seconds, that margin, and as far as we could see, not a wheel wrong. As John said, wheel perfect effort by both Charles and Dries, and that's an important result as far as the championship is concerned, not only in terms of the points they get for pole and the win, but also, of course, with Raffaele Marciello and Timur Boguslavski finishing last, then it really does give them a boost. Now, what about Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Ulysse de Pauw? Silver Cup winners yet again.
That was phenomenal. Well done to both of you. Pierre, the pressure there at the end of that stint looked tough.
Yeah, it was crazy hard. Honestly, the guy with Audi were pushing hard. It was hard in the car, hot. Tire degradation was quite hard to keep. So I did my possible. I'm sorry to this guy that did a brilliant job and give me the car P3 overall. I would have liked to keep the car in this position, but it's like this. Good point in the silver, and now focus on tomorrow.
Absolutely, the class win is really important, and of course, Ulysse, you drove an outstanding stint.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We struggled a lot yesterday with the car setup. We found some griefing yesterday night. We worked very well, did a very strong qualifying again this morning. And then that opening stint was very good. Unfortunately, we struggled a bit on the tire degradation comparing to the Audis on the second part of the stint. And then that safety car didn't help us. So I think we must be happy with what we got today and keep pushing like that.
Absolutely, tomorrow's a new day. Well done, boys.
Drivers talking about tyre degradation. Tyres a big talking point this year, this new tyre that Pirelli has introduced. There's the second placed Mercedes of Jim Pla and Jules Gounon. So near, but yet so far.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good pit stop and they got up into second place and they consolidated that, finished just under 3 seconds overall. And they will be, I think, very happy indeed. Just the pace, the performance of the 32 Audi overall was a stellar drive, work, pit lane, whatever. And totally professional. One might say a cold, calculated, unemotional victory. It's a victory. Who cares how you get it?
Absolutely so. And Christopher Hauser and Simon Gachet doing a good job to take third. Let's look at the highlights of the race then. Gachet's start was not great. We'd identified he was lagging back coming off the last corner, and he virtually gave away second place here as though he just was not confident in the feel of the car. Almost terrorised to the outside line was Gachet, which enabled up the inside to come Jules Gounon, and although the Audi was just ahead coming out of turn 2, by turn 3 it was all done and dusted and Gounon was ahead, and then we saw going off the racetrack very early on the Manuel Maldonado McLaren. That fell down the order accordingly as Thomas Neubauer came up to have a go at Gilles Magnus and also try to fend off the Casper Stevenson Mercedes. Valentino Rossi was hard at work. Chris Froggatt went round the outside of Miguel Ramos, and Valentino Rossi went up the inside of the McLaren and gained a place, as then Timur Boguslavski got involved in this incident with number 33 Audi, turned that car around coming off turn 1, and Jean-Baptiste Simonin was left facing the wrong way. Rossi battling with Chris Froggatt, making his way through on the inside line, and the two Audis in the hands of Gilles Magnus and Thomas Neubauer continued their squabble in the Silver Cup. Valentino Rossi had this wild spin coming out of turn 8 that dropped the car yet more time. Lost it places as well as Chris Froggatt gave a tiny tap to the back of the Adrian Delina Porsche and turned it round. That's under investigation. The pit window opened, the stops cycle through. Some came in early, others staggered it just a little bit. And Jules Gounon handed over to Jim Pla. Charles Weerts gave way to Dries van Voor. And the Audi continued in the lead as coming over the line, Vincent Abril's McLaren had a failure. That put that car out of the race and also triggered a full course yellow into a safety car. As the race restarted, Raffaele Marciello got himself in a big battle with Matteo Drudi, but ultimately contact would give him a puncture and he would fall into the pit lane. Fastest lap, little consolation to the Italian. Battling hard, number 25 Audi, Patrick Niederhauser up onto the tail of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. And then as the race came to the end at the hour mark, it was a win for Dries van Voor and Charles Weerts. Let's hear next then from our Pro-Am winners with Gemma.
Gents, your second Pro-Am win of the season, a fantastic stint. You took the lead, or the class lead, just after the safety car, I believe.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess after the restart of the safety car, and I think the McLaren had a contact with another car, and then that's when I took the lead. And pretty happy with the result today. Obviously, Hugo is not here this weekend after a little family issue, so definitely looking forward to racing with him again, and this win is definitely for him.
Super kind of you to mention him, and stepping in for Hugo, of course, for the weekend.
Yes, for me, it's first time here in Zandvoort. I'm very happy about the results, P1, and the car was very quick, also my teammate, and I hope we will do a great job again tomorrow.
It's a great race, well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Ferrari drivers being drowned out by Porsches that come down the pit lane for the Carrera Cup France round, which is going to be on track next at this very busy weekend of action at Circuit Park Zandvoort. So our opening race done. That'll affect the championship, of course, and it affects it thus. It now puts into the lead Charles Weerts and Dries van Voor, ahead of Timur Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marciello, with Jim Pla third. Fourth overall, Ulysse de Pauw and Pierre-Alexandre Jean, ahead of Patrick Niederhauser and Aurélien Panis, with Simon Gachet and Christopher Hauser next. And Jules Gounon, of course, not scoring the same number of points as Jim Pla because he had to miss an event while he was away, winning at Bathurst. So that is how we stand overall within Sprint Cup. So good day at the office for Charles Weerts and Dries van Voor taking over the Sprint Cup lead. And there the drivers making their way on to the podium now. Christopher Hauser and his co-driver Simon Gachet take third, Jules Gounon and Jim Pla for second place. And then the winners of the first race of the third round, the fifth race of the year, onto the podium and the top step at Zandvoort for the first time for the top step. Out come Dries van Voor and Charles Weerts, race winners at Zandvoort. For WRT, it's a very, very welcome result because it puts the reigning champions in sprint into the championship lead once more. So for the Belgian WRT team, the national anthem, and then the trophies will be presented. Matteo Braga from Pirelli steps forward with the third place trophies first of all for Christopher Hauser, who looked as though he was going to claim the fastest lap until Raffaele Marciello took that away 2 laps from home. Simon Gachet, recovering from that slowish start, gets his trophy for third place. Then the second place trophies to Jules and Jim, Jules Gounon and Jim Pla, content with second position, but 2.8 seconds adrift at the end of the race, and adrift of the winning Audi drivers. There, the team's trophy goes to WRT, and then the winning drivers' trophies will go to Charles Weerts and Dries van Voor, winners for the second time this year, and they will go into race 2 and indeed qualifying 2 tomorrow, ahead in the championship, which gives a real boost to the confidence. Trophies in the air. For cameras, everybody huddles together on the podium, and we shall see whether tomorrow's grid offers us a very different look to the race. But as the champagne sprays, hats off to Dries van Voor and Charles Weerts, Watty, because that was a perfect drive.
I mean, that was metronomic. Everything about the performance by the 32 Audi is textbook, and the level that these top teams are operating at, anything less than that will be a disappointment. And Charles Weerts, well, he's trying, I don't know, he's trying to drown absolutely Christopher Hauser. And But anyway, the guys would love to have a mouthful of champagne, but they know they've got to turn up tomorrow morning. We've got qualifying for race 2. They've got to be in the top of their game. Right now, with so much adrenaline in their system and maybe a little bit of dehydration, they just, oh, well, there we go. Charles Verts decides he's going to take a slug anyway.
So the drivers making their way from the podium. So a fantastic job done by Dries van Thor and Charles Weerts, and of course we look forward to race 2 tomorrow. Qualifying bright and early tomorrow morning, and is it going to be 2 out of 2 for Charles Weerts and Dries van Thor? Well, we'll find out tomorrow when we come back to Zandvoort for the second race of the weekend in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. But what a performance. Charles Weerts and Dries van Thor dominate race 1 of the weekend. Drivers then now in the Silver Cup. We have our third placed crew already of Thomas Drouet and Casper Stevenson. And for second place, Alex Arca and Nicolas Schürrle there. And our race winners, again in silver for the AF Corsa team, Ulysse de Pauw and Pierre-Alexandre Jean. That makes it 4 out of 5, and that Ferrari is proving to be formidable, not only in silver, but also with great pace overall as well. For AF Corsa then, the national anthem played briefly for the Italian team, and once more Matteo Braga from Pirelli will step forward with trophies, and also the checks that go to the winning crews in silver and in Pro-Am. Casper Stevenson and Thomas Drouet receiving their trophy, 3rd in silver, but 8th overall, which is another very commendable result. 7th overall and 2nd in silver to Nicolas Schürrle and Alex Arca. And Alex, the son of Alkin Arca, the Attempto team owner. And then for the winning team, nestling amongst his drivers there, AF Corsa's trophy and Pierre-Alexandre Jean, and the very tall frame of Ulysse de Pauw, race winner in the British Formula 3 Championship 2 or 3 seasons ago. They receive their race winner's trophy. And that Ferrari is really being one of the eye-opening cars of the year.
Great to see a Ferrari competitive in sprint and in endurance, but a little bit of work for the AF Corsa team to make sure that that loss of front-end bite, we picked it up in that first part of the race. Suddenly the front end went away, so that's a mechanical adjustment they need to find, and hopefully that car will be more consistent for both the drivers tomorrow.
Absolutely so. There are the checks that are presented to the victorious teams within the Silver Cup. Trophies being raised aloft for photographers, and then are they going to celebrate? Are they going to run for it? They are going to make a hasty departure.
I think it depends how many pairs of overalls you got. What you don't want to do is have to get into a pair of sodden, smelly, champagne-soaked overalls on Sunday morning.
Well, Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Ulysse de Pauw continue this near domination of silver, pulling ahead of Nicolas Schürrle and Alex Arca within the championship. Thomas Drouet and Casper Stevenson are 3rd, so the top 3 crews in the race, mirroring what we have in the championship. Nicholas Barth and Gio Magnus 4th in the standings. Of course, they lost out in the race with the drive-through penalty that they had to serve. Manuel Maldonado and Ethan Simeone are 5th. So one more podium to go, and that is going to be for the Pro-Ams, which again changed late race after that safety car procedure, and dropped Patrick Kropinski and Christian Kleen down to 3rd, and you can tell from their demeanour they're not overly impressed about that. Christian Kleen at the wheel, surprising in a way that he would get mugged, but if there was contact and you find yourself in a battle and lose track position, then there's not much you can do about it. Christian forces a smile. So 3rd place, Patrick Kropinski and Christian Kleen arrive on the podium. 2nd, from the back of the grid, there, Andrea Bertolini and Louis Machiels. And then the class winners are going to be Cedric Sprazzioli, and winning for the first time this year, Stefano Costatini, super sub he is for the weekend, but it's a good substitution because he's a race winner in Pro-Am, along with Cedric Sprazzioli, as the drivers now make their way onto the podium. And once more, so also represented AF Corsa as the winning team. If it's a quick Ferrari, normally AF Corsa is behind it, and so it's a second-class win of the day for the Italian team. So for AF Corsa once more, it is a class win, and once more also Mattia Braga arrives on the podium with trophies. First of all for the third place drivers, which means that Christian Klein and Patrick Kropinski take their trophies. Patrick, who is proving to be a very, very rapid am in that Pro-Am battle. Louis Machiels, one of the veterans of SRO's GT scene, and Andrea Bertolini, who himself is becoming a veteran, but of course FIA GT champion, GT1 world champion decades ago.
Yes, I think Louis Machiels and Andrea Bertolini sum up the ethos of this category, because they're not young hot rods, they're both mature. Andrea Bertolini's been around, well, I mean, at racing at every level, and Louis Machiels is, for me, the true essence of what an AM should be.
And Cedric Sprazzioli and Stefano Costatini on the top step of the podium, and another very competitive class battle we have enjoyed. So there is champagne, but there isn't really the will to spray it. And as the drivers make their way off the podium, let's just confirm Patrick Kropinski and Christian Klein lead Pro-Am in the championship from Cedric Sprazzioli. Miguel Ramos and Dean McDonald fall to third, not scoring in that race after the car retired, stuck in fourth gear very early on indeed. Ugo Delacour absent, and Andrea Bertolini and Louis Machiels are in fifth in the standings. So race 2 tomorrow should be a very lively one indeed. A separate qualifying session to determine the grid, and we look forward to another great race here in the Dutch Dunes. For now, from Gemma Scott, John Watson and David Addison, thanks for your company. We'll see you tomorrow for more of the same. Bye for now.